Pedro, as the composer on Narcos, how did you find the various musical themes for this epic retelling of the life of Pablo Escobar?
Well, luckily, my involvement with Narcos started very early on. I've worked with the director of the first two episodes and the creator of Narcos, José Padilha, in various films, and we've done a bunch of things together before this. So he brought me in at the script stage, and which a lot of times is very rare, especially nowadays in the in the industry. But I got to read the scripts. They were going to Colombia to start shooting, and I started recording a bunch of different ideas that I had. I'm from Brazil originally, so I play a lot of the South American instruments, a lot of the stringed instruments like the ronroco guitar, the tiple. So we had this idea of doing Colombian influenced music. I mean, using Colombian instruments, but doing a more, like you said, epic, suspense, noir, even at some points, score. And not necessarily, I mean, we do use a lot of the Colombian rhythms and percussion and things like that, but we try to not be Colombian music on the nose the whole time, to have a broader scope using the Colombian instruments in some of its music.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
oh, go ahead.
Sorry. And then as I got to know the characters and read the scripts, we started discussing what the show needed, which characters should have themes, which characters shouldn't have themes. And I come mostly from the film world, so where you have a 2-hour movie and you can't really give every character a theme, otherwise you just confuse yourself and the audience. But in a show, as I quickly learned, we have 10 episodes, and maybe a character that's not as important in the first episode might have a big arc in episode 5 or 6. So I'm able to start hinting at themes early on and then have them the payout when their episodes hit. So it's been a fascinating and really rich experience in being able to create a lot of different themes and a lot of play around with a lot of different music influenced by the Colombian music and South American music.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think what's so great about this show and a lot of TV shows these days is what you mentioned. Like, it's, even though it's a 10-episode series, there does feel like there's this cinematic quality to it, and there's like an arc to it. You know what I mean? So how far in I'm just wondering, like, when you were writing this music, did you have all 10 episodes in front of you, or you're going like episode by episode, or?
No, I didn't have all 10 episodes. All 10 episodes are released at once, but we try to work on them on sequence. In the first season, we had a few problems, so we had to jump around sometimes in episodes, but I did know the story arc. I had received a lot of the scripts beforehand, so I had read like up to episode 5 when I started to write episode 1. So it's not like TV where you're doing one episode now and it's airing in 2 weeks and you don't really know anything about the next episode unless you're one of the writers or the showrunner, or it's really a quick pay. In this one, it does feel more like a 10-hour movie, even though we were breaking it down for post-production purposes. I mean, they needed to finish an episode and then get it to the dubbing and then get it translated into multiple languages for the subtitles. There's this whole process that takes place, since Netflix is all over the world, that needs to happen after the episode is locked and mixed. And so that's why we were doing one at a time, so they could finalize it and have them all 10 ready for the release. But it is a very different, as I mentioned, experience than doing a regular TV show. Also, I think the fact that it's Netflix, like you said, they wanted something cinematic. They go after the creators and the directors that they admire, that they want to work with. And at least in the case of, as far as Narcos goes, so much, just allow you to create, and a lot of freedom in being able to, I mean, a lot of respect. A lot of times with studios, you get so many notes and you don't, when everything is said and done, the vision is not necessarily the vision the director had in the first place. And I think with Netflix and Gaumont, the production company behind the show, it's just been a blessing. I mean, it's really it's exactly what we had talked about in the beginning that's coming across on screen.
Mm-hmm. So take us through the production of an episode. Right before the interview, I rewatched the first episode, which is really lively. And I mean, you're going back and forth between Colombia and Miami, and you're introducing all these different characters. So take us through, like, for instance, that episode, writing the music for that.
Yeah, the first one specifically was very different than, for example, now I'm writing episode 8 of season 2. We already have a whole rapport. We know how it works. We temp it. I usually have a week to 10 days to write the music, and then we do any notes and we go to the dub stage. With episode 1, since they were going off to start shooting it, they shot episode 1 and 2 together, and those are both directed by my friend José Padilla. So I read the scripts and I started. They would start shooting and they would send me dailies, which now doesn't happen anymore. So whatever they shot that day, they would have available online for me to log in and watch, even the unedited scenes, but just takes of what was going on, for me to get the mood. You know, sometimes when you work without, especially in my profession, when you work without image, you can come up with these brilliant ideas and this brilliant music, but when you see the tone of what's shot and you see the performance of the actors, sometimes it doesn't really match. So to me, it's really important to see what's going on, how they're acting, what the tone of the whole thing is. That you can get a lot of it from the script, but the lighting, the performance, that, I mean, can differ a lot from what's on the page, especially with the director as free as José Padilla is, that really allows ideas to come through on set. So I was watching the dailies, I was watching the performance, and then I started coming up. I knew we needed at least one, but probably a couple of themes for Pablo Escobar. But really, it was a really free process. I started writing, putting a bunch of ideas down in the computer and sending it over to them, and they started cutting the episode. And what happened is, a lot of the music I had created, they started already cutting to it. So that's really also a refreshing thing in my business, because a lot of times I received an edited episode and it has music from a bunch of different films temped in on it already, and everyone's used to listening to that kind of music. So I'm sort of tied to whatever they've put in there, and it's hard for them to go a completely different direction without the strangeness that happens at first. So that also allowed a lot of freedom, that they were using the music that I had written that they thought really worked in the episodes, and I had specified which theme I thought was for each character. But in some cases, we even ended up swapping, and something that was written for one ended up working for another one. So it was a really collaborative and really fluid process that would change as we moved along. And episode 1, since I got in very early on, they shot 1 and 2 together, as I said. So they probably shot for, I don't know, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I don't remember exactly now. And then they started editing. So we had a lot of music by the time the show was edited, and then it was just tweaking, writing some new pieces that we needed. But it was a very fluid, very different process than what we have now. What we have now is they shoot an episode. The director does a director cut with the editors. After we're pretty close. I mean, I think the Netflix gives some notes, the producers give some notes, and then I go in and watch the show with them, and we decide, okay, where there should be music in the show. Oh, this should be Pablo's theme, maybe a new version of Pablo's theme. This is a really dark piece. We don't have anything like this. We should do something new. Here we're going in a different direction. We need to start establishing this theme. And then I go away for 10 days. I write all of the music. I send it all in to them, and then address any notes, which, as I said, luckily it rarely happens at any notes. It's really been a fun process without much tweaking. I think we're all very much on the same page, especially after so many episodes working together.
Mm-hmm. So what can we expect from season 2? You don't have to give any spoilers away. But I know I'm looking forward to the second season. Can you give us a hint of what we could expect stylistically, musically?
It's really, I mean, it's really a fascinating season. I'll tell. I mean, it's as you see in season one, we start with more, you know, fun episodes where the drug dealing is paying off, where everyone's happy, where everything's cool, and Pablo's traveling around, and he has Gustavo, his sidekick. I mean, his cousin, and the guy who's running the business of things. And it's really, you have that sense of, which is very much José's tour de force. I think the way he mixes comedy with really dark subject matter, you know. And as we start to go through season one, you really start to see Pablo, I mean, deal a little bit with all his demons, everything that's going on inside his head, and with everything that's going on outside also, everyone trying to get him, trying to hunt him. And season two is even more of that. I mean, we really, it's basically the hunt of Pablo Escobar that happens from every side, from the other drug cartels, from the DEA agents, from the and the circle really starts narrowing down on Pablo, and you really see more of the personality of everyone who was involved, the DEA agents who were involved, what they were going through. And there are no, what I love about the show is that there are no black and white characters. Everything is gray. Everyone has to play a bit of both sides, you know. There's, even though they're on the side of the law in Colombia, things were so complicated that sometimes they had to go through shady ways to get to what ultimately they needed. But it's a fantastically done season. I mean, the writing is really phenomenal, and I think people will be hooked on it as much as they were on the first one, or even more, hopefully.
It really is a fascinating look inside this world. I mean, rewatching that first episode, I forgot how much information gets packed into, you know, each episode, and how it's done in such an entertaining way, you know, like it's very riveting, and you learn a lot about this guy's life, you know, that you might not have known before. I mean, was watching it and making it kind of like a, you know, eye-opening or learning experience for you about this world at all? Or
it was, even though I'm from South America originally, and I remember, I mean, we're neighbors with Colombia, very far neighbors where I grew up, which is more in the south of Brazil. But I remember hearing about these bombs and all the, I mean, the horrors and the war that was taking place, the plane that got taken down by Escobar to try and kill all of those are real stories. Nothing is made up in the show, especially in, I mean, of course, characters are adapted, and some characters didn't really exist exactly the way they were, but pretty much all the facts that you see in the show really happened the way they did, you know. And it's, so I remember hearing about it and how tough it was to live in Colombia at the time, and how the drugs were really running the show. Sometimes the drug dealers were more powerful than the president or than the armed forces. They had more guns and more sicarios than probably the military could deal with. But I learned so much throughout the show, every script, and even up to today. I mean, yesterday we were spotting episode 8, and I was watching some things, and I'm like, wait, did that really happen? I can't believe that. So it is very, very enlightening, and it's a fascinating look. I mean, it's obviously a very dark character who killed a lot of people and who did horrible things, but he was such a fascinating guy who loved his family, who was so dedicated to his family. It's such a dichotomy that I think that's what also, I mean, of course, drug violence, money, it sells in Hollywood, right? People like to watch that, but I think the character, the fact that he's such a fascinating character, that he also had a soft side, that he was, you know, he almost was able to switch from one to the other without I mean, much effort. I think that's what keeps you hooked, and everything that was, all the politics that was going on around it is fascinating. And again, José, I don't know if you had a chance to watch the first two movies we did together in Brazil called Elite Squad, and then the sequel. It's also, I mean, it's very political and a lot of information packed in, and it has humor. He really has this vision and this ability of explaining very complicated situations in a fun way and packing it all in a 2-hour film or a 50-minute episode, where you leave and you were entertained, and at the same time you were able to learn a lot of stuff, and while not being overwhelmed by it. I feel it, at least.
Mm-hmm. I have actually seen those movies. I like them a lot. Well, thank you so much, and congratulations on your work, and look forward to season 2.
Great. Thank you very much, Zach. Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you too. Have a great day.
Bye. Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Bye.